Good afternoon. As Julia said, my name is David Weidman, and I serve as the Assistant Head of School for Academic Affairs and the Dean of Faculty at Kimball Union. And I also am privileged to be the Director of Theater. I have had the privilege of teaching and working here for 25 years and directed Stephen in the production of KUA. Like many boarding schools where faculty and students live and work together 24 hours a day, at KUA we build strong connections with each other. In remembering Stephen, Casey Lawson, an 01 graduate, sums it up well when he says, "Membership in this KUA family is not unlike that of any other. We savor victories and learn from defeats. We share values and promote ideals. We celebrate milestones and we mourn losses. We all are mourning a great loss." It seems impossible that someone who went to a small private school in a sleepy little town in New Hampshire could be thrust into the national spotlight. A family remembers its own and tells that story. John Farnsworth, Stephen's English teacher and dorm parent, recounts in a posthumous letter to Stephen, "I always had a sense that you wanted to make a name for yourself. I'm just sorry you won't be able to tell the story of what getting there was like. You would have told it best." Indeed, he would have. His advisor, Gino Riffle, remembers, "From the minute Stephen showed up as a 10th grader at KUA until his death, he was a storyteller. Whether he was in the student center, cafeteria, dorm, or even the classroom, he was always surrounded by a group of students or faculty engaged in some tale, whether it be about watching his house torn from its foundations as a hurricane ripped through his hometown of Miami, or strolling the streets of South Beach trying his best to impress all the beautiful people with his sly sense of humor. Stephen even learned Arabic to tell more stories about an area of the world and its people with whom he had fallen in love, regardless of its inherent dangers. Gino says, "He was a man who knew what he wanted and did not care about the risk. He wanted to live his way." Many have described Stephen as brave, and he most certainly was. His best friend, Jordan Lesser, recently said, "The most important thing to understand about Stephen is the courage and drive he had to chase his dreams and passions." But Stephen told us he was drawn to covering the Middle East not only because of his Jewish heritage, but also out of his genuine love for the people. His coverage of the Arab Spring and subsequent turmoil showed how the conflict was affecting the disenfranchised and the people on the street. "It's a pleasure doing what I do, and it's something the world needs," he said. Sandy Willett, one of our nurses, recounts that when Stephen came to do a workshop at our biennial global fair, he showed many pictures of himself surrounded by smiling Libyan children. Even as a teenager, Stephen displayed a rare interest in worldwide current events. One of his remarkable traits was his willingness to pursue his passion in the face of considerable obstacles. Through Stephen's love for writing and journalism, the Kimball Union newspaper was reborn, and in his senior year, as co-editor, he published 12 issues. "The paper exceeded everyone's expectations," Stephen proudly announced. In a letter to the editors in the final issue of his senior year, former headmaster Timothy Knox commended the newspaper staff. "Your standard of journalism has been consistently high. You have encouraged intelligent discussion on matters of world importance, as well as presented thoughtful analysis of internal school-related issues. Each paper has included material ranging from serious to lighthearted." It was through the newspaper that Stephen found his stride. He was, however, not always a focused student. "I was the class clown, especially in Spanish with Mr. Cardell," he announced. His Spanish classmate, Sager Philpott, recounts, "I think Cardell kicked him out of class at least once a week for dress code." To which Tom retorted, "Stephen and journalism, yes. Stephen and sartorial sense, probably no." Paul Montcastle, his English teacher and dorm parent, remembers Stephen's mischievous streak. One night, when apprehended for being out of his room after lights out, Stephen invited him to play a video game with him. Stephen often met the faculty's impatience with his trademark smile or shrug and replied, "You can't blame me for trying." And in his senior year, Stephen joined the KUA's volunteer fire brigade. Chris Thayer, a fellow brigade member, remembers Stephen fondly. He made almost every call and meeting. He always asked questions. He always tried to learn. If he wasn't sure, he would ask. That's a rare quality in a young firefighter. He worked hard too, and loved to help, doing whatever was needed, packing hose or whatever. He would make sure that things were done right and not just done. If he missed a truck, he would be found sweeping the station, organizing gear, or sharpening tools. Perhaps the KUA Fire Brigade, Chris ruminated, gave him the ability to think through what he wanted to offer the world. I remember him working so hard at training, his eyeglasses were constantly almost falling off his face from sweat. He always moved with a purpose. Chris concludes, as he had all of these qualities when I knew him as a high school student, I can only imagine how amazing a man he grew to be. And of course, his obsession with football was legendary. Gina Riffle recounts, every Sunday night during the fall, I would knock on his door and he would be in head-to-toe Dolphin paraphernalia. If they won, he would describe every play in detail. If they lost, he would show off his extensive vocabulary. I always told him his ability to tell a wide range of stories came from the losses, because that's when he exercised very descriptive language. Steve's football coach, Brian McMahon, tells this story. The final game of the season was against Vermont Academy. We had been winless against VA for many years. Few people could recall the last time we beat our arch rivals. In 2001, however, the seniors on the team were able to walk off the field knowing they had accomplished what no KUA team in recent history was able to do. Looking at Steve, you would have thought we won the Super Bowl. I still remember that day as if it were yesterday, said Brian. But surprisingly, he wasn't satisfied with only one heavy contact sport. In his senior year, he went out for rugby. Brian says he loved everything rugby, the hard work, the discipline, the pain, and of course, match day. A caption in his yearbook states, "Rugby is life." In 1 year, he went from newbie to old pro, but that was Steve. He was always looking for the next challenge. He was not only a thinker, but also a doer. The most salient and oft mentioned of Steve's qualities, however, is his compassion. Sager Philpott says, I remember him as an incredibly kind, inquisitive, and unique individual. At an age when we were often afraid to be our authentic selves out of fear of ridicule and rejection, Stephen had no such fears. He marched to the beat of his own drum and was a friend to everyone. I can only hope to live my life with half as much passion. He cared deeply for his friends and would consistently speak up against injustice. In his letter to Stephen, John Farnsworth describes him in this way. Your resilience was your strength. I remember your putting your arm around others in need and letting them know that you would be there for them. You had a tenderness and a desire to connect with others that was unlike most high school students. You appreciated their support for you and reciprocated the gesture so naturally. John goes on to say, I want you to know how much of an impact you had on me when I was trying to have an impact on you. And Gina Riffle adds, in a typical high school lunchroom, the same kids sit with the same kids. Stephen was never at the same table. One day he would be with the football or rugby teammates, the next with his newspaper buddies, the next with his theater friends, and the next with faculty or students from different countries. One day I asked him why he bounced from table to table. He said, Riff, look around. Look at the people at the school. Look at the opportunity I have to learn from everybody every day. If I did not take advantage of this, why even go to this school? I could have stayed in Miami and just hung with all my Jewish friends. But I wanted more, and I will have more. In his closing remarks as editor, Stephen said of Mr. Ripple, "He was the first adult I can remember that looked me in the eyes and listened to every word I was saying for almost an hour, and really worked with me to change some of the things for my benefit, betterment, and comfort." Gino concludes, "Stephen showed us that no matter who you are or where you come from, if you listen, and if you step out of your comfort zone, you will learn, you will grow, and you will experience life through a newer, larger lens, otherwise left closed if you are unable to take that leap. As in his life, so in his passing, Stephen continues to serve as an inspiration for the entire KUA family and the world at large. And we are so very grateful.